Welcome to Teach Me a Lesson. I am Elliott G-B. As always, first off, thank you so much for listening, watching, checking out the podcast. We got the world at our fingertips, baby, and you are choosing to spend that time here with us, and it does not go unnoticed or unappreciated. All right. Now, if you want to extend that support for the podcast even more, you know the drill. Check out the Patreon, patreon.com/ElliottGB, ELLIOTTGB, where for just $3 a month, you can support the podcast. You can help me cover the costs of recording it, getting it out there, all that type of stuff. And for $5 a month, you get bonus content for every episode. If you get to the end of this episode and you're like, man, mommy want more, interesting that you call yourself that, but also I got you covered. There's stuff that I have to cut out, not because it's not good, but only because I want to keep these episodes as close to an hour as possible. And I release all of that a week after the episode comes out. So offsetting, these episodes come out every 2 weeks. On the weeks offsetting that, you get bonus content for the episode. So if you really enjoy it, you can have something out. You can have something every week. All right, you don't have to go a week without us. And that's the world I want to live in. Don't you? All right, that was weird. But yeah, so for $5 a month, you get access to that, access to all the past episodes, all that bonus content as well, and all the future ones, as long as you stay in that tier. For $10, you can get some of my merch and all that previous stuff. All of that is on the Patreon profile, so go check that out. Again, patreon.com/ELLIOTTGB. Also, make sure to follow the podcast on all social media platforms, Instagram and Twitter at TMAL and TikTok, Teach Me a Lesson Pod. Again, TMAL Pod, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok is Teach Me a Lesson Pod. And if you want to follow me on all social media platforms, I am Grent Radish, GRENTRADDISH. Also, if you want to see me do stand-up, highly recommend following, because that is where I post about all my dates, all my upcoming shows. Whenever I live stream on YouTube and Twitch, post about it on there as well, specifically Instagram. So make sure to follow me on there. And yeah, stay in the know. Also, if you're going to be in Minneapolis, Twin Cities area, if you are in that area May 19th through the 21st, make sure to follow me, because I'm doing spots around there. Nothing's fully locked in yet, but some stuff will be happening, and I will post about it on there. You can also check out my website, elliottgb.com. That's where all my dates will be. But again, make sure to follow, stay in the know, and that's how it go. Terrible catchphrase. But yeah, let's just get into this episode. This episode features a very special guest, and I'm not just talking about Erin. One Miss Pepper the dog. Nice little cute bulldog. So if you're watching on YouTube, you will be blessed with her presence. If you are just listening to the episode, you will be blessed with her sounds. And honestly, both sound great to me. Both sounded great to me. I got to experience both of them in real time. And I've met Pepper in real life too. A gem. Just a real gem. And you know who else is a gem? Our guest, Erin Ingle. Very funny comic, based out of Seattle, Tacoma area right now. Yeah. It's just a great conversation. I was very glad to have her on. As always, very happy to have the conversation. And I really hope you enjoy this conversation with Erin Ingle. Do you write bad reviews?
No, I don't write reviews of things. And the only other times I've ever really considered writing reviews would be like if it was a very small mom and pop type shop, and they're like, please God, please review us.
Yeah.
And then I always like get on Google and think about writing a review, and I'm like, then this will be my only review and it'll be weird.
What if you build up a backlog, so then when that day comes,
then hit them all, send them live at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I'm liking this plan. I'm liking it a lot.
I do like how that's your thing though. Someone's going to be like, oh, this is a really nice review. Let's go look at it. She only has one review. Why would we even listen to this?
Yeah. She's probably a shill for this tiny burger stand.
You're telling me this is her first opinion that she wants to vocalize on the internet, and I'm supposed to listen to that?
Problematic. Yeah. Oh boy.
Yikes. Well, let's hop into it here. What's the lesson? What do you want to talk about?
Well, I was looking through the lessons that you've learned so far. Are you taking these to heart, Elliott? I want
not at all.
Not
They're
a bit.
coming in. They're immediately out. Immediately out. You could word for word say something that someone else has said throughout like a whole episode, a whole hour, word for word what like Derek or Dewa said. I would not pick up on it at all.
You'd probably pick up on it if I was talking like Daewoo, though. I feel like you'd be like, Erin's different today.
Yeah, if you were like, I'm a Tibetan American comedian, I'd be like, well, that's one thing I
And
didn't know about Erin. So
yeah, no, I was looking through to see if I generally am like, do I have anything valuable to say? And that's a position that I think a lot of comedians find themselves in. Like, who am I? What am I doing? Why am I talking to you? What right do I have? I also was feeling like paralyzed by the idea that I would, say something, like make some bold claim, and then somebody would hear it and be like, she doesn't do that. Like, that's not. She's not that. She's trying. That's just not her. I'd be like, you just have to, you really have to respect other people's space. I'm like, that bitch is constantly on top of me. Yeah. So, but I summoned through your backlog, seeing if I could contribute anything fresh. And so I think I'm gonna share my my top two, and see where we go with it.
okay.
One would just be simply to ask more questions,
Oh.
and the other is sort of like my 2021 New Year's resolution, and I've been trying to roll with it ever since, which is to try to reach out to people when I think of them, instead of just thinking, I should get in touch, and then never doing it. I've been trying to be better about just sending that message when somebody's on my mind, because you never know when you're going to not have that opportunity anymore. I always feel like shit when somebody reaches out to me, and I've been like, I've been thinking about you, never said hi. There's no way for me to prove that I have been thinking about you, but I have. And if you look at the backlog of our texts, clearly you last reached out 2 years ago, but I promise you, I care about you. And so I've been trying to do that a little bit more lately. I think it's been nice. It's just been, especially in the last couple of years of being a lot more isolated, a little less of that, easy, no effort social interaction. It fills my heart to chat with people, and so reach out and ask more questions. And those are both
reach out to someone and ask them a question. Boom, two birds, one stone.
Boom. Ask them, have you tried Cuisinart's products? Do you think they're any good?
Hey, would you mind leaving a review for Cuisinart products? But also, follow-up question, do you have a backlog of other reviews so then people take it seriously?
Yeah, because I'm going to be honest, if it's just one review, nobody's gonna look at it.
It's worthless. It's honestly worse to do that than just not leave a review.
No, you're going to embarrass the company, and you're going to look like a fraud. Yes, those are. I think ask more questions. I mean, yeah. Do you want to ask me any questions on that topic, or or should I ask you?
Oh boy. Well, let's do like a little backstory on you for people that are unfamiliar, and then yeah, I might have a couple questions for you.
Okay. A little backstory on old Ingle here. Let's see. Started comedy I did like my first open mic in 2012. So coming up on 10 years from the very first time I tried it, and I didn't really stick it out at the time. I was dating a ding dong, and he didn't really want it. We both were like, let's try comedy. We did an open mic night at the Comedy Underground in Seattle, and I loved it and wanted to keep doing it. And he was like, I'm not very good at it. I don't want to keep going back. He never said he wasn't good. He thought he was very good. But it kind of petered off, and I was working nights, and so I didn't really stick it out. But then in 2013, my dad passed away. Me and that guy broke up, and I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. I want to focus on it. Changed jobs so I could just have nights off to do comedy. Obviously, a financial sacrifice for no monetary income in the comedy universe at the time. It was just to go to open mics and meet a bunch of fucking weirdos. But been mostly doing it ever since then. Didn't do jack shit in most of 2020, but kind of got back in last year. And I honestly still kind of feel like I'm getting my legs back under me. I don't know about you, but but looking forward to what's next. I felt like early 2020 was it was like I was like looking at this year, and I had lots of exciting gigs and a lot more travel lined up, and then when that dropped out, I was like, I haven't quite rebuilt that momentum, as it were. So trying to work on that right now, and trying to take a page out of the old G Bible, Elliott G-Bible. Post some videos, get some clippy clips.
Oh, okay, all right.
Maybe start 200 podcasts. I don't have one. I don't have anything to say.
There you go.
Yeah, I've always had fun with you. You're a great podcast host. So,
thank you. Well, Erin, I don't mean to call you out, but that wasn't really a question. But I'll allow it. I'll allow it.
Okay.
You're from Seattle, right?
I'm not. I'm from Oregon. I'm from a small
right.
town in Southern Oregon. And Pepper the dog is trying to get up on the screen again. I made this chair for you. Go over here, you little nugget. She is shaped like a meatball, and to me, she smells like a packet of macaroni and cheese powder. Pretty precisely. Pretty precisely smells like mac and cheese powder. And I'm thinking, I haven't quite followed my nose there yet, but I think it's the white cheddar. I think it's a white cheddar and not an orange cheddar. So I'll get back to you when I make a final decision on there. But there's that dog.
There we go. I mean, she is mainly white, so
I mean, that could be what's coloring my, it's a synesthesia sort of situation.
But I mean, the nose knows. So
the nose knows, but what do the eyes tell the nose? Oof. What story are the eyes telling with their mouth?
We don't have time to get into that.
Oh, we don't?
And now because that's been pretty much my whole life. So I don't think I can squish that into an hour.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, I grew up in Oregon. Didn't start comedy till I was up in Washington. When I graduated high school down in Oregon, I moved up to Tacoma, Washington for school. And then Seattle from there, and summer 2020, moved back to Tacoma. So it's been great. I like this town. It's a cool place. Nice. It's a cool place, and they say it gets colder. You're bundled up now. Wait till you get older.
God damn it! You got me.
Is that All Star?
That's Smash Mouth. Yeah.
Did I just smash everybody's mouth? God damn it.
I think you did, because I was right there and I was like, does Tacoma get colder than Seattle? I guess it is a little bit south, but I didn't think it was. Yeah. And then the media man begs to differ.
You were forced to reflect on Smash Mouth's fucking succinct climate change predictions, and not all of us were prepared to take it straight from the truth tellers at Smash Mouth Incorporated, but now here we are.
Yeah, we all heard them in Shrek, and we were like, you know what? These guys fucking rip. And then now we're like, oh my God, they were prophets. They saw the future.
Do you think they have set up some sort of like lounge music club in space yet for them to escape to with all of their Shrek money?
That's probably what they're working on. You know what they're probably doing? Here's a conspiracy theory. They're having all these millionaires and billionaires go up there first, test it out, little guinea pigs. They don't even know that that's what they are. They think, oh, I'm living life. I'm doing this and that. Mm-hmm. And then meanwhile, Smash Mouth dudes are just like, you idiots.
Because Smash Mouth is for the people. Smash Mouth is a proletariat band.
And they're just like, you are falling right into our plans. We're going to get you up there. We're going to leave you. We're going to build our own space station. And we're going to eat you.
That's what Smash Mouth's been saying, eat the rich, since 2001.
If you play it backwards, it says eat the rich.
It's all true, 100% true. And that's why if you check out my Google review of Smash Mouth's Astro Lounge, you'll see it. I blew the lid off of this years ago, but I didn't post it,
okay, you saved the draft. You saved the draft. Mm-hmm. All right, Erin. Well, you know what? I think actually if you post that and then you post the mom and pop review, people will be like, oh, who is this? Then they'll go back. They'll be like, there's only one other review. And then they'll read it and they'll go, oh my God.
We better listen up and listen good to this Google review. She knows what she's talking about. And then
Wow.
and then the third review will be for Teach Me a Lesson podcast.
I thought it was all right. Could have used more Smash Mouth lore, but
Smash Mouth canon.
Mm.
Um,
But I say that about everything, so take that with a grain of salt.
That's true. That's true. I said about everything. So 5 stars, pretty good. All right, perfect. Well, how is there like a moment or something that or an event that helped you realize these things, or is it just kind of been throughout time?
I think as far as like asking questions, I think a lot of people who are like, especially people that are dating men, I think would give a lot of men that advice. I don't know, especially in the dating world, like it's not that hard. Just ask a few questions, like pay any attention, and like you will be charming. And I have a lot of just visceral memories about this one internet date I went on years and years ago. And this guy was, he was like military, but you wouldn't have known that, right? Like from his profile or whatever. I just found out, like we chatted. There was like witty banter right away on the app, and then it was like, let's take it to text. And then it was the times when I would stay up until 3 a.m. or whatever on dating apps or chatting or whatever with with people. Those days are long behind me. Pepper's on the arm of the couch now. Very nimble little creature, but so this guy and we were texting back and forth. His profile said he was 5'8", and I'm 5'8". And so that I will say, generally would prefer somebody taller than me, but this guy was really, really cute, had great style, was charming. And, that's like a shallow thing, right? To like, I've dated guys that are shorter than me before. It's not a big deal, but being, in whatever that phase was in my life, I was very, I think I'd had enough online dates that I was like, so straight up, are you 5'8" or are you like a confident 5'6"? And he said, I'm 5'8". And then we set up a date, and I was like, whatever. That's great. We texted, everything was charming and cute and shit. So we set up a date, and he like took the ferry over to Seattle, and I met him down at the ferry, and we like went for a walk up to, from like downtown Seattle, which is, down by the water, sea level, if you will. Pepper wants to get out now. But then we walked up the hill, the Capitol Hill, like smoked a joint, which I realize now was a very risky move for him as a member of the military. And like went up to a place to get burgers. And in that entire time, he like monologued about himself exclusively and did not engage with me as a person in any way. Like I could have been a basketball or a brick wall or whatever. It wouldn't have made a difference, except that I could pass a joint back and forth. And then I was good and high too. So, also not like at my peak social function by the time we get to our lunch date or whatever. And we like sat and had lunch, and we were leaving there to like maybe take it to, it would have been, I'll take it to the next location if we were going to keep spending the day together. And we like walked out, and he was like, I'm be honest, I'm like really into you. I'm like, how could you possibly be into me? Like, you don't know anything about me. Maybe you I guess maybe you like how I look, but like, and you like that I'm listening to you talk. So I was like super turned off, and I had told him that I was like, honestly, you didn't ask me anything about myself this entire time. And like, also you lied about how tall you are. So I'm like, come on, man. Like, I gave you every opportunity. All you had to do was like slightly engage me in any way to like show that I was somewhat interesting to you outside of like, being just a receptacle. So, and you didn't, and you had all this time. So that's a no for me, dog. I'm gonna be done with this date. And he was blown away. He was like, what? How did, like, what was, I was like, you didn't ask me anything. You didn't talk to me. Go forth and do better at that next time.
Yeah.
So that was like, as far as a dating epiphany, I was like, that's a pretty simple advice, I think, just to like ask a few questions. But I also have, if you navigate in any situation with me, you will see that I have a pretty pathological need to make friends with people and be liked. So when I move through the world, I think that that is a tool that I use as well, just to like communicate, and be like, hey, hello, like I actually am interested in you, and maybe we won't know each other after today. You're just ringing up my groceries or whatever, but to show like a little bit of care to a person, and they might need that moment to like have an opportunity to share something, or like they might have spent the entire day being like, treated like not inhuman, or not respected. So I think it's like just in a general philosophy of mine is that like you got to engage with people and asking questions, and listen. The addendum part 1B is to also like listen, and not just be filling the air with sounds and like saying like or like playing checkers, and like I ask you question, I wait for you to ask me question. Like you got to still be a person and navigate a conversation. But that's my general, like, life's just a little bit easier for you and for others if you ask a few questions here and there. You might find out something from a good friend that you're like had never known before. I so many amazing like friends. Like I know so little about you as a person. We've had these types of conversations and we shoot the shit a lot, but like I don't know much about you at all, and it would behoove me to like know if you had some a deep trauma about like dogs, and like you never you're like, this is so disrespectful for you to have this dog.
I'm scared of all dogs that could be called meatballs, and right off the bat you led with that, and I'm shaking.
Is because you watched Aqua Teen Hunger Force as a
way too early
very very triggering stuff. Yeah. So that's asking questions is my little, you do it a lot. You're basically interview people. So
I mean, I won't lie. I've been guilty of not really doing that in the past, and I wonder like why that, because it's not like I'm not interested, but also at the same time I don't like small talk, like
that's
especially
big, big too.
Coming from the Midwest where everyone's like, oh well, fucking I'll ask you everything, and it's like you said, it's like I'm literally just buying groceries, like we're never gonna see each other again, and whatever. But also like I am an introvert and shy, so there's the pep. This is so traumatizing for me right now. I can't even look. But like as I get older, I'm like, okay, this is not like people necessarily being rude or weird. Like this is my thing, and it does feel good to talk about something, or just even like you said, just kind of be treated like, hey, you're here, you're also a person, so let's get that respect.
Your angle of like, a lot of people find small talk annoying, and I know that I am like, sometimes if I'm just like standing in an elevator with somebody, I see my friends sometimes be like, would you fucking cool it, Ingle? Like, you do not need to like befriend this person. There was a movie that came out a while back, Wine, I think it was called Wine Country, that had Tina Fey and a bunch of stars in it. And one of the like girlfriends in their group is taking forever to get out of the Uber, and they're like, you don't need to be best friends with this Uber driver. Can we move on? That's again why I'm like, teaching people a lesson, teaching you a lesson about this. It's like all of these are somewhat subjective. I like the idea, I like the idea, but it's not a foolproof, and it's not like always the right answer to like engage, because sometimes you're just being annoying, and like, and it's also self-serving for me to be like, it makes me feel good to chat.
Obviously there's nuance, and every situation is different and this and that, but it is something that kind of, I think, especially like just thinking about me personally, like still am shy, introvert, whatever. So I'm not just going to go up to people and just, hey, what's your name? Where are you from? Blah, blah, blah. But then also just getting so just kind of wrapped up in comedy. And then even before that, like working in restaurants and kitchens, it's like, okay, those are kind of environments where you know, we're going to be seeing each other a lot and you see the same group of people all the time. So it's like, all right, eventually we're going to get there, you know, and then through little kind of conversations, you gather this information, that information, and this and that. And I think especially within the last couple of years, being removed from that and interacting with, I hate to fucking say normal people, regular people, but people outside of those spheres, then it's like, oh, my kind of social skills are a little warped or broken a little bit. And then like trying to date and then
jokey.
Exactly. And then like getting into that world and trying to date. And it's like, oh, okay, this isn't like, maybe it is just like dealing with comics where it's like, we all kind of not necessarily just want to talk about ourselves, but like at a certain point, like it'll come up and like, oh, I'll share this crazy story that I have, or I'll share like this and that.
Because I know you're going to be captivated and like, and that's
and
also
then,
with the dating part, like kind of part of your, like your charm, right? Is that you're a funny guy. So like you got to showcase that when you're out on these dates. And then if it could get, you could lose other parts of it, but some people probably want to be performed for too. So,
and those are the people I go for. I say, hey, I'll put on a show, I'll tap dance, I'll fucking, I'll juggle, I'll do whatever. No, I wish I could juggle.
Mermaid tail.
Just wait till I bust out the mermaid tail. You're gonna be wowed if you think this
I mostly
is great.
have to just sit here, so or crawl around with my elbows and arms. When you get those when you move through like your different social circles, like thinking about you can have so many vapid interactions, and in like the service industry, right, where it's when you're asked the same question for the 13th time that day, and you're like, I had a buddy, I always like to tell this story, who was just like would pathologically lie to all of his tables as a server, and it never ceased to crack me up because I'd like be walking by him and he'd be like, yeah, medical school is going pretty well. Like, fucking absolutely are not in medical school, but it just was like fun for him, and he was on the like, I'm never gonna have to answer for this lie, so why not? And then, maybe that person was getting their cup filled by saying, hey, like, I had the most lovely interaction with this server today. He is so smart. He's going to medical school. And, it's kind of just a whatever. Like, it doesn't really, there's no real rules. But moving through those worlds, and like, when you get to that point, like you said, there's little trickles of information here and there. And then you're like walking in, taking your coat off, like, how's your skin tags, Larry? Hey, what's going on with your wife, Mark? Like all those little check-ins. It's like, I think a lot of people, if you are being a genuine person, like it feels good to know somebody like remembers what's going on with your life. Right. But yeah, it's a lot of information. There's nuance to it. There's levels, and I'm not gonna leave Teach Me a Lesson pod with lie constantly, but it can be fun here and there. And also, it's when it's a victimless crime, why not?
Yeah.
That's just silly and fun. But on dates, have you found yourself monologuing?
A little bit, but not that bad.
Yeah, you're a self-aware person.
Yeah, but I have noticed at certain points with past relationships, like talking to my family, and they're like, so like, where did she go to school? And I'm like, oh, here. And then they're like, oh, what did she go for? And I'm like, I'm not really sure. But also the thing is, I'm like, but she never talks about it. And then there was a little like a thing too where I'm like, well, I don't want to like press you about stuff. So like if, it's not coming up, I'm gonna. And then there was one time I was like, well, you never talk about this. And they're like, because this was a bad experience. I'm like, okay, well now I feel like a fucking asshole because whatever. But yeah, definitely.
Well, that's it. I'm never gonna ask you anything.
I'm never gonna ask a question ever again.
Or I mean, maybe are you a little bit more of a forthcoming person? So you would assume that if somebody's not talking about it, that they don't want to talk about it.
A little bit, yeah.
I certainly am like that too. But.
Yeah, I'd say kind of with like family stuff or the past or whatever. It's like if you bring up in college, blah, 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 I was like, oh, so where'd you go and stuff like that. But I'm not gonna be like, so how was that experience for you? Like, was it tough or blah blah blah? But
yeah, and it's hard to find those like the way to phrase those things. I mean, exactly. Ever since my dad died, I've like when I just am like meeting somebody and like I've had a hard time trying to phrase the question like I can't even imagine this scenario anymore, but like, if you're like, oh, like, do your like, oh, I'm from such and so, do your parents still live there? Or like, what
Mm-hmm.
have you, like, I have found myself saying really awkward shit like, are your parents alive? Yeah. And did that benefit anyone in that conversation? Often if somebody does have a dead parent, they're like, no, they
Yeah.
are not. And that's funny that you didn't assume that they were or what have you. But that's just because of my, of my shit where like, it's not even because it like bothers me when somebody asks me about my dad and I'm like, he's gone. It's more because when they do, like, somebody does say something, they're like, oh, what does your dad do or whatever, I'm like, oh, he passed away years ago. Then they feel bad, so I'm like, or sometimes they're like, oh god, I'm sorry. I'm like, it's okay, it's not
Yeah.
a very like a present wound or what have you. So like, I am afraid of being awkward and shit constantly anyways, so like, then I try to find these ways to get around it and often overcorrect and make it awkward still. So
Yeah.
me.
Do you think people kind of see the sort of genuineness of you, just like asking, and then if there is kind of where you feel like, oh, maybe there's that overstep, you're like, oh, I'm not
Yeah.
trying to, and they're like, no,
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool. You're just asking, and
Yeah,
and
I
good to
think,
know. So
yeah, I don't think I at least there is that side of it. Like, I don't think it's ever really taken poorly if I do flub something like that. I will tell another very stupid story. I was chatting with this person at a bar after a comedy show, and they were like, like, oh, yeah, I just think it's really cool. Like, I was the only woman on the show, and they were like, oh, I just think it's really cool to, like, how did you start doing it and whatever. Like, and I, for some reason, like, I flubbed the very simple question of like, what are your pronouns? And
Mhm.
said, are you a girl?
I'd say, yeah, that's a big flub.
That's a big one. And she was a girl, and
Yeah.
but she was like so shocked that I would ask that, probably because I think that she was new to Seattle and would like, nobody would ask her like her pronouns anyways.
Mhm.
And she's very female presenting, and like, there was no reason I needed to even go there, but I was like really excited to talk about like the experience of being a woman in comedy, but I didn't want to assume that she was a woman, even though she
Yeah.
looked like a woman to me. And I was like, oh my god, Erin, just like, I like flushed myself down the toilet after that conversation.
That's hilarious.
So ask the right questions. You fucking idiot.
Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
out of all the ways to flub that. So are you a girl, or what's your deal? What's going on down there? What's up? Like, excuse me, you're like,
Oh my
I'm
God.
sorry, I couldn't think of the word pronoun, so my brain just went complete.
And they're like, I don't even know what a pronoun is. You fucking weirdo. Yeah, that was delightful.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
Good questions. What about reaching out to people? I mean, I would assume obviously everyone's kind of learned that within the last
Right.
couple of years, everything going on, but is that
Yeah, I
kind
think
of
that's
what you would
kind of
say?
what it is. And it really is like what I was saying before too, of just like feeling like, what does it serve, how is it serving me to not say hi, apart from like, maybe it's like what if I, like, maybe they don't think we know each other that well, or like, like, I've sent some random just like, hey, whatever, thinking of you, and like, to a comedian friend that's like, maybe we're not like super close, like,
Mhm.
we've gone on little road trips together or done shows or whatever, but if we don't have a super intimate relationship, making that, like, that little ask can be a little bit odd, to just be like, well, maybe what are they going to do? Not answer, which is fine. I'm no worse off than I was before by not knowing.
Yeah.
But like, if they think it's like weird, like, I guess my mind goes somewhere like, like they're gonna like make fun of me in public without me knowing or something. Like, this fucking freak just said hi to me. Like, I care about them at all. They said they were thinking of me, perv.
Yeah.
And so I think I get like self-conscious about that stuff, just depending on the relationship. Or like I get have friends that like we haven't physically seen each other in years and years and years. Like I have a friend of mine that we went to college together, and we have literally not seen each other in 10 years, but we still like check in on each other here and there. And then there, sometimes there's that like, would love to see you, but you live in a different state. And like sometimes I think my mind goes through and says like, well, this is the conversation we would probably have. So I don't even need to, say anything or whatever. But I think it does. I still like it still touches me when people reach out and makes me feel like, less alone. I think it's like a really amazing feeling to know that somebody's thinking about you. Like that, what a beautiful thing to like, just to know that you have enough of an impact that you even cross someone's mind, and then by the same token, like, there's a lot of people that may not know that I care about them at all. And it's like, just because I say, hey, I was thinking about you, hope you're doing well, like, doesn't mean that now we have to text all day, every day. Like, I only have that relationship with very, very few people, but just to like check in. And texting, I think, I don't know. Do you ever feel like you don't know how to end a text conversation?
Yes.
Oh God, isn't that fucking weird? Like we were really in a sweet spot with like online messaging where you could be like, welp, gotta go.
Yeah.
And then you could be done with it. But with texting, and you're never going to be away from your phone, pretty safe to assume. So like it seems like the right thing to do is just to stop responding. Doing a sign off from a text is so weird.
Yeah.
Like, well, talk to you later. Like sometimes it's only, God, I would love to like read or write a book about text etiquette, because it's only when you go from 0 to like 60 and you're like texting as though you're on like instant messenger and like beep boop, beep boop, back and forth really rapidly. And then when that's like done, that's the spot where I'm like, okay, what do I do now? And sometimes we do like all right, well, I got to go do something, whatever. I'll chat with you later. So fucking awkward with text. Unless you're going night night.
That's what you guys say. Okay, I'm going night night. They're like, it's 11 a.m. I don't.
And then little Z's emoji.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I did write down because I wanted to actually ask you a question about that, because like reaching out to people, it, like you said, it is, well, that made me think of I had a therapist who I didn't really vibe with, just like his style, his approach, but he did do one thing. I've probably talked about this in a previous, actually, I don't know if I have. But he had one exercise where he was like, okay, what do you want to work on today? And I'm like, well, that's not really kind of how I want to do things. I just want to talk and figure shit out. But we were talking about like social anxiety and stuff, especially because, I moved down to LA, and I'm like, all right, I have to restart, and I'm going to be at mics or places where I don't know anyone, and I got to get out there and just start talking. I got to start asking questions.
Yes.
And so he was like, well, what do you like say to yourself in that moment when you're like really feeling anxious about, an interaction, or even you're just having a panic attack? Like, kind of what do you say? And so I wrote a bunch of stuff down. And then he was like, okay, now what if, like, think of one of your best friends. What if they came to you and said, this is all the stuff that they were thinking? Like, what would you say? And I'd be like, oh, it's not true. And he's like, okay. So why would you say that to yourself? Like, do you really think all this stuff is true? And I was like, damn, bro. Damn, dog. Yeah.
You got a tip jar up in here? Give me.
Yeah. I was like, okay, we're not really working well, but that shit was pretty tight. I see what you did there. That was, and so that really, taking kind of that moment to be like, okay, this is what I'm feeling, but is it, take a step back. Let me get out of myself a little bit. Is it warranted? Is it really worth it? So I think that whole thing of kind of feeling bad about not reaching out to people, or I like, actually what you said was how good it feels to be reached out to.
Yeah.
And then kind of remembering that, but then as soon as you reach out to someone, you're like, fuck, is this weird? Like, I haven't talked to this person in a long time. Like, but then you gotta think like, no, put yourself in the other perspective. Like, it feels very good to get reached out to. But also I was wondering, what do you think about, because you kind of talked about it with texting, but just even just how accessible everyone is these days, and how that's warped kind of our perspective of I guess like personal space, or just accessibility. And it's just like, you are available 24/7 because no one ever just leaves their phone these days. Like you said with the instant messaging, it's like, all right, I gotta go because I can't fucking bring my laptop on the bus, or my like my desktop on the bus.
Yes.
So
or
but now
somebody else needs to use the phone, so I have to get off the internet.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. For the kids listening out there, that was an issue for a while.
It was big. It was global.
Yeah, having that constant availability, or accessibility, I think is the word you use, which is much more true. It is bonkers, because then I think that in another like anxiety and feeling pressure and stress thing of like, well, and this has happened before, like where somebody reaches out via Facebook, let's say, and yes, I have Facebook, I can access Facebook on my phone. But like especially when I was working in a restaurant, I really couldn't like look at my phone for a few hours at least. And I would have moments where somebody would like message me. I'd see, okay, at 11 a.m. they said like, hey, are you free on the 21st? And then I, by 4 p.m. would get to my phone and say like, oh, hey, yeah, what's up? And they're like, never mind, filled it, like the spot's gone. And because people want that like instant reply. And, you could be perceived as like disrespectful for not responding immediately. And that I think is like where the only thing I can control is checking myself on that, to say like, I shouldn't demand that people respond immediately to me or feel like take it personally or as anything other than it is, reading into it if they don't reply immediately. And I shouldn't expect I have a day job, and I do not expect anyone to reply to me via email or like text after like 5 p.m. I'm like, if I didn't come up with this until after work hours, that's on me. You could be, if it were me, I'm stoned, already if it's after work. So I'm afraid I'm going to say something weird if I reply. So I'm just going to wait. And so I just need to like give other people that grace and not assume that, like, not read into it or what have you. But there's the other side of that are like social media and whatnot begs the question for me is like, you can kind of know, quote unquote, what somebody's up to without checking in, right?
Yep.
Like you can really know what's new, what they've been up to just by like looking, and they could not know you have any awareness of that because you can just see it. You don't have to like the photo. And also, I don't know how many people are seeing or like really keeping track of who likes their photos and whatnot. Yeah. Some people probably do a greater degree than others, but like I went to a wedding a few years ago and for some reason felt like I needed to reintroduce myself to the sister of one of the grooms. And I was like, I'm Erin. And they're like, I know. I've known you since you were a child and I've seen you online. Even though I haven't seen you in 15 years, I know what you look like now. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. But I didn't I didn't put that piece together. And that is bizarre that I know everything about, some girl I went to high school with, even though we haven't spoken I don't know everything about her, but I know kind of what she's up to. I'm like, I know she's not married. I know she lives here and I know she does this. And I know like that, all of that stuff. Haven't talked to her in, 15 years or whatever. That's weird.
Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting. I haven't really thought about that either, but it is like, and then, you can get into the whole side of it. Like, well, what they want you to know, cause it's just what they're putting out and this
True.
and that. And that whole kind of, online persona and shit, which has really changed because it used to be, okay, I make a profile and I can make it seem this way, whatever. But since it's like people literally are willingly just documenting their lives and putting it out there for anyone to see. And it's kind of, if you think about it, it's a little weird that we think the more people see it, the better that is, when it's like, there are some things you should just be like, we've all been with that
Mm-hmm.
person who's putting everything up and this, and you're just like, can you just like sit and
Mm-hmm.
hang out? Can we just like me and you just have a drink or something and
Yeah.
like that's it, you know, not for everyone to see.
I am not like I'm not like super on social media, like as far as my personal stuff. Like I post about my sweet boy and my partner Baird like on his birthday every year, but like okay, and now we're married, and a lot of people don't know that
Mhm.
because I haven't like posted a lot of photos or what have you. And a recent example is that I was on a show with a comic that I really love dearly. Like we've never had dinner together, but we're like buds.
Mhm.
And I said something my husband, and he was like, "Oh my god, I didn't realize you guys had got married." And I was like, "That makes sense. I haven't like put that out there." Um, and then like okay, so Baird and I got engaged in 2019, and I think I like posted about it in like a not super like super announcy way. It was like,
Yeah.
it was like in the pictures, it was like we had a
Yeah,
trip to
yeah.
New York and we got engaged. Da, da, da. And months later, I like posted happy birthday to him, and somebody was like, "Congratulations." I was like, "Are you congratulating us on being engaged all of these months after that?" Like, and I think I was kind of like, "Why didn't you know that?" Like, it already happened. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Oh, because they missed a post or whatever." And I do that with comedy shows too. Like, I assume that just by like my one little story share that everyone knows that I have a show next week in, I'll say what's real actually. When does this come out?
April 18th.
Okay, so everybody must know that I have a show in Lake Chelan, in Chelan, Washington, on the last weekend of April. They must know that because I've posted about it here and there. But then, like, that's assuming that people are just like poised to see everything that I post. And I also like I expect that for that comedy stuff for some reason, and then people are like, "Why don't you ever tell me about your show?" It's like, "Oh, you want me to directly invite you?
Yeah.
Okay." That seems annoying to you, but sure.
Yeah.
And I don't do that enough either. That was another like 2022, 2021 realization. It's like, "Oh, you don't just like know what I'm doing? You don't follow my website or my like Instagram stories that you only have 24 hours to see."
Mm.
So yeah, being more intentional about that stuff too is like as far as comedy business. But yeah, who wants to talk about comedy business?
Well, so how has this affected your life? Because the theme I'm getting from both of these is
Read me.
kind of a theme of connection and,
Oh.
you know, maintaining connections by just reaching out, but then also saying, hey, whether it's a new connection or an old connection,
Hmm.
let's learn something about each other a little bit. You know, let's strengthen it a little bit. So
That's very wise,
how
Elliot.
do you thank you?
That's very
I
wise.
that took a lot. That took a lot to put those together.
We actually, the folks listening at home didn't catch this, but Elliot just called a 2-hour break so he could put the pieces together.
And a big whiteboard in the back. I'm connecting dots. It's crazy.
No, you're just a smart guy. I mean, I think that I think people mostly perceive me as like a friendly person, and that is how I would like to be perceived. So if that is working for me, and people aren't, as I am terrified to have be the case, incredibly turned off by all of my conversation making, and they're like, Ingle's coming, go leave the room."
Yeah.
If that's not happening, then I think that people see me as as like a kind person, and that's really like how I'd like to move through the world. I like don't really know. I have a really hard time coming up with like or like pinpointing like what my like morality is, but I think as far as how my mama raised me was just to like be kind to other people, and uh, I think that that helps me. It, there's a lot less friction in my life because of that. I think here and there I will, knock on the wrong door and like have cultivate a relationship with somebody that is not a healthy relationship, or maybe you ask a question and you're like, "Oh boy, I opened up a can of worms that I did not need to." Say
Yeah.
you're on a bus or an airplane, and then you're really trapped in that conversation for a
Oof.
while.
Yeah.
So that's like the main downside, and of course the social anxiety stuff. But like in general, I think it's just like it's just nice. I think being the way that I engage with new friends, or like strangers, or employees at the place that I'm working or whatever, like if people interact with me, if the sound lady or like the bartender at the club I'm working over the weekend find me nice, then that's gonna serve me a lot better than if I'm an asshole, or like, obviously those are not the only two options. I could simply not engage or what have you.
Yeah.
But I think that there are dividends yielded by being a nice person. And like, if some other comic is like, oh, I gotta go on this, I gotta find somebody to take this long road trip with me to go do such and such show in the middle of wherever, at least Erin's like decent to talk to. So like,
Yeah, at least Erin asks questions.
He lets me do my thing. I've definitely had like headliners that I've worked with specifically say, I could have invited this or that person, but you were the person I'd much rather spend time with. And I was like, okay, I'll take that. I don't know if I'm funnier than them, but whatever, at least I'm here and I'm making that money or what have you. So there's a benefit to that part of it. And my partner Baird has a really really strong like family unit. He's the eldest of 5 siblings, an entire starting lineup, as we've discussed. And ever since I've been with him, he like definitely inspired me to take more care with my family, because we're a really small family. Like both of my parents only had one sibling. They have their partners, and I only have 5 cousins. Like that's like all I have. A lot of people have 50, So since I have such a small family unit, like it's been nice to just like sort of rebuild that community. And some of that does like fall to me, as Baird would observe, that like I'm definitely the talker in the family and whatnot. So like if I want to have these things happen, sometimes it's on me to like do the reaching out, and that's great and fine. So having I do feel like my family has become a little bit more close in the last few years, and that's certainly not all me. Like I think everybody's has been wanting that to happen. So so that's a personal life benefit of doing that reaching out. And I don't do it enough. Like there's my uncle is hilarious. I have a new plot, because my uncle, who is turning 70 this year, and is a hoot and a half. Shout out to Uncle Bob. You've got one too, right?
Oh yeah.
Do you literally have an Uncle Bob?
No, I do not.
Okay, not literally. Okay, fair. He will butt dial me. This is a hilarious thing. He will butt dial me, and I will answer the phone, and it'll just be his pants or whatever, just crinkling at me. And I'm like, oh, okay, he butt dialed me. Sometimes I will miss the call, and then I will call him back, and then he'll be like, hey, how's it going? What are you calling me for? And my new plan is just to tell him that I just was thinking about him instead of calling him back for a call that he didn't know that he had made.
That's funny.
A very classic move in my family is to have somebody call me, or call one of the older generation, call one of the younger generation, and be like, are you calling me right now? That's very, especially like FaceTime is extremely confounding to a lot of people. But so just soaking up that love. People aren't going to be around forever, so
that's true.
Soak it up.
But all right, kind of wrapping things up, are there any books or podcasts or anything that you would recommend for people to check out?
I have been gobbling up lately a podcast called Maintenance Phase. Have you heard of that one? It is, I should probably just like read what they say about themselves, but what I would say about them, it's co-hosted by a man and a woman. They are just like friends in different cities, I believe. And it's sort of generally, the podcast focuses on like debunking stuff in the like health and wellness universe. So they talk a lot about like, I just listened to a couple episodes about Jordan Peterson's carnivore diet, in which you eat only like beef and salt. And then talked about, like influencers. They talk a lot about, the way like fat phobia in culture and pop culture, and like the disparity of people that say like, you're perfect how you are, but like, here's how you could lose the weight, and love yourself more, just because it's all about loving yourself, like however you are, but like be better, so I've been enjoying that podcast. I think I've spent a lifetime trying to like love my body, and learning how to do that and not want to and not wanting to like impose my will upon it, but also wanting to be healthy, and like what is healthy and all that stuff. So that's just been an interesting podcast. There's a really, I think a good entry episode might be the one they do about Super Size Me.
Okay.
And yeah, I just started listening to it like a month ago from a friend's recommendation, and I didn't start at the beginning. So that's when I start consuming podcasts. I usually like find a couple episodes, and then once then I'll like eventually start back at the beginning. So I haven't hit that start back at the beginning yet, but yeah, been enjoying that. I've been very slowly reading a book that I probably should have read in like high school, which is Go Tell It on the Mountain. That's very beautifully written. And I just recently rewatched Moulin Rouge, and I didn't need to. You know what? I was fine without rewatching it. But I also I'm watching In the Heights, and trying to decide how much I like Lin-Manuel Miranda or not. You got any opinions?
I'm out.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
I think
too many words.
I think the whole Hamilton thing, I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then I saw a little clip of it, and I'm like,
you never watched it, huh?
I can't with that
kind
of
It was fucking like 3 hours long, so.
Yeah, and just like that kind of rap, and like it's just like
very particular style. Like you can spot it from a mile away.
It's too much like the teacher that's trying to be cool.
Ooh. Hello, Nail. Hello, Nail. This is the hammer. Watch your head.
And then there was then In the Heights, and I might have started the trailer for that, and then I saw that it was Lin-Manuel Miranda, and I was like, I'm good. But then there's this documentary about him that he was in like this a cappella rap group or something. Before everything.
There's another musical that is like an on-stage musical right now called A Freestyle Love Supreme. Is that what that is?
Yes, that's what it was.
Okay.
And there was a documentary about that, and I watched the trailer, and I literally said out loud to myself, I was like, I will never in the history of my life watch this, because it was so cringy. And I mean,
do you hate improv too?
If Pepper was in it, no, I love improv.
Oh, okay.
Love improv.
Can you hear Pepper snorting in my microphone?
Oh yeah. Pepper is making those opinions known.
MC Pepper on the mic. About to drop some historical knowledge. No, thank you.
Oh my God. No.
Okay. Yeah. No, I could see not liking him very much. I did watch I like the Disney stuff or the Pixar stuff that has happened lately that he's done. I really liked Encanto, which is all the fuck over the place right now. Very cute. But those Pixar movies, they just fucking like yank the emotions out of you. So
they get you.
That's a certain type of drug that I enjoy here and there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a childless adult. Give it to me.
Yeah. All right. Well, you ready for the rapid fire questions?
Okay.
All right. You can answer all of them. You can answer none of them. And if you choose to answer none of them, that's your choice. But Pepper will be upset. So
okay, Pepper.
That's just how it is. But first one is just quick, 10 seconds or less. What do you think the key to a happy life is?
The key to a happy life is loving yourself and showing love to the people that care for you.
Perfect.
I think. I don't know.
Yeah. God, you should have just ended it there. No, that was weird. That was perfect. And then the second is, what is a simple pleasure that you have?
Cheese and crackers.
Nice. And then the final one is, who is someone you would like to work with in the future?
Ooh. I have always wanted to meet Sarah Silverman. I don't know. Yeah, I think she's somebody that long ago was like, I want to be like that. You know, she has her moments of, she doesn't swish every shot, but I think she's fantastic.
Yeah, I could definitely see you two working together. I could see that.
Thank you.
So, perfect. I was scared for a second you were going to say Lin-Manuel Miranda. And,
my uncle, Lin-Manuel Miranda.
who butt dials me. I call him Bob for short. Perfect. Well, Erin, what do you want to plug? Where can people find you? Who are you?
I'm Erin Ingle. I am a really nice guy. I am doing a monthly show in Tacoma, Washington, the final Friday of pretty much every month. But the last Friday of April and Friday and Saturday, the 29th and 30th, I will in fact be in Chelan, which is like a fabulous little resort town in Washington, for what they're calling a girlies getaway. It's like a ladies weekend. There's doing wine tasting and pampering and stuff. I will be nowhere on Cinco de Mayo doing nothing problematic. I will be helping out with a brand new pilot edition of a comedy festival in Seattle called Upper Left Comedy Fest, and that's going to be in May. And comics listening can submit. There's a few spots left, but it's just it's a pretty low budget affair. But we're going to try to make it happen. Make a comedy festival happen in Seattle that's not a competition, because comedy competitions blow.
Yes, they do.
They sure do. What a way to feel bad about yourself. So I've got a couple of exciting things. I will actually be in Minneapolis this summer, which I'm pretty excited about.
Oh, nice.
July, where at Sisyphus Brewing. So
nice.
for the Midwestern crowd here, can't wait to see y'all again. And I'll take any of your input on what to do while I'm over there. Maybe I'll even try to dip over to Madison, see what's happening.
Hey, let me know if you do, and I'll tell everyone not to book you. Just kidding.
Oh! She's mean. Don't listen to her.
Trust me. You book her, she's going to ask you some questions.
And she's not going to review your podcast or your show. There's nothing to offer.
True.
Horrible.
True. Well, Erin, thank you so much for coming on. It's a great conversation. Very happy to have it.
Great to catch up with you, Elliott. I'm going to send you some random texts. And you know what? You don't have to reply right away. But when I think of you, when you pop up in my little dreamy dreams, I'm going to say hi.
Ooh, okay. I can't wait. Yeah. Thanks again for coming on. Again, thank you for listening. Tune in next time when we're back with another great guest and another great lesson. Bye.
Bye.